Hey everyone, Livy here, back with another video, and today I am doing my April 2025 monthly musings where I talk about all things life, books I read, and tarot oracle related content. Where do I even begin this month? Okay, April. April was a month that felt like it lasted. I want to say April, just 1 month, felt like it lasted at least half the year, if not a year. It was just very long and kind of chaotic and just so different in tone from beginning to the ending of the month. But let me try to explain why. I don't want to take too long of time, but the beginning of April was nice because I took a trip with my husband and we went to San Diego, California. Very beautiful city. If you've never been there, did a lot of fun things. It was a good reset, kind of, but simultaneously kind of sucked because after that, it was just a very busy, stressful time of year, especially when you work in education here in America. April's kind of like that weird halfway point where you realize, oh my God, we're going into testing season and it's just going to be downhill from there. So I think that was the biggest thing. It was just a lot of stress. Work was very chaotic and stressful for me for what felt like no real good reason, but it was what it was. So mentally, just kind of going ups and downs, just trying my best to survive. Did a lot of work tarot readings though, but I'll get into that later in the video. But now that we discuss life, I guess I'm gonna move on into books because I don't know where else to go from here right now. I'm sorry if I seem disjointed. I kind of am. I've just been in a weird headspace, but we'll see. Anyways, let's start with the two books that I actually did not finish. I DNF'd these. I'm not going to spend much longer except to say that I did. The first book here was called Forest Born by Elaine Audrey Becker. And the second book was Soul Swift by Megan Bannon. The reason why I decided to DNF both of these was, frankly, I meant to read them this month, and I just decided I was not going to do that because I started trying to read this one. I was about 100 pages into this one, found it really, really boring, and decided I was just not going to go on with it. The second book ended up being too religious, Christian leaning to me. And I decided I was not about that and I was not going to waste my time. So I DNF'd it also. So like I said, really short, sweet, to the point. I'm not going to spend forever talking about these. Let's move on to a book I actually did read a lot this month though, which was this one. This is Graceling by Kristen Cashore. This is a very interesting and old YA fantasy novel. I think the closest you could probably compare Graceling to in like depth of almost being a classic of the time is basically like Tamora Pierce's books, you know. This is pretty much up there. People really, really love Graceling. I had never read it, and so this was my first time reading it and found it fascinating. I guess I would put this in a very low 4 stars. And I think it's because if I had read this book as a teenager, I think I would have been obsessed and loved it more. But because I read this as an adult and because the character just didn't... There's a lot of things in this book that I think started off the genre of YA fantasy. But now, compared to now, I don't know how great it would seem. I guess just because we've evolved since then. So I don't know how else to explain that. but Graceling is a really good one. It was ahead of its time in some respects, though. Like, it was definitely doing the strong female character thing. The main love interest, though, was really good in this. Really think he was very multi-dimensional, and so that was cool to see, too. I mean, all of the characters, to be honest, or most of them, were pretty dimensional, so that was great to see also. So yeah, definitely a 4. But what's funny at the same time is, like, I wasn't completely obsessed with it either, even as I read it. It's like one of those where I eventually want to read the other books, but I'm not in a rush to read them, if that makes sense. But it was still entertaining. Really interesting magic system in this one too. But yeah, that's all I guess I have to say about Graceling. But this is one that a lot of people tend to like, and I would rate it, I guess, a solid 4. After I read Graceling, I read the second book in the Inheritance Games novel series. This is called The Hawthorne Legacy. And I would say, in comparison to the first book, I think this was lesser in quality. This was definitely a 3.5 read for me. I don't think I was as interested in this one because I don't know what it was with this one. It felt like most of the characters that were there were already introduced, but it seemed like they were all operating within one space too frequently. And it just felt like too many people on set. I think that's the best way to describe it. I found myself kind of getting fatigued, bored with some of it too, even though it was still interesting. It's like still an interesting series. The murder mystery, or not murder mystery, but like the murder plot, or not murder, the inheritance thing with the grandfather who died and all that. Still interesting. And it had an interesting ending. I think the ending was probably one of the more better parts, but there was just a lot in the middle that I felt could have just been taken out. I don't know. I am still curious to read the next book. I already have it, but I haven't started it yet. This one, The Final Gambit. And I also have this one. I think this one, though, is a series of short stories. The Brothers Hawthorne. I do have both of these. I don't think I'm going to go on to those, just so you know. But yeah, this is definitely like a 3.5 read for me. Hawthorne Legacy. And finally, the last book I read in the month of April was this one. This one took the longest, though. This is The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. This is an adult fantasy novel that a lot of people have recommended, sung high praises of ever since it came out. A lot of writer friends I knew, a lot of people even on Tarot too, people have been reading this book and they really liked it. And they recommended it highly, and it has been anticipated. I have been wanting to read this one. What's funny is, I guess I would put, if I had to think about everything this book was doing, some really interesting stuff with like certain plot mechanics, or like who they decide to have as character mechanics, I guess, and world building. Definitely puts this book, I guess, at a low 4 also. Because, okay, I am really intrigued and I'm very curious about the prequel novel. I do have the paperback of that pre-ordered, so I am curious to see and learn more, I believe, of Galva's story, because I'm pretty sure it's about Galva. She was like almost like the paladin-like figure in this book. Most of this book was about Kinch Nashanik. He is, as the title says, he's the Black Tongue Thief, right? He's a Galt, and I guess Galts in this world have black tongues naturally. He was trained in thievery, and he gets forced to go on a quest with this bird knight who fought during the Goblin Wars. And he goes off on an adventure, and that's, I guess, as much as I'm going to say. This book was really, really interesting, especially character work. But I think what held this back for me from being an even higher 4, I guess, is the fact that there was something, just something about the way it was written. I tried to figure out what it was, and then I realized what it was. And that was that even though all the chapters in this book, right, all these chapters, they're really short, as you can see. Like, a lot of them are really short, or they're like only this many pages at most, right? I realized that even despite that, this book was really dense to read, and so it took me a long time because of the way it was written, like how the author turned phrases, or I guess how the main character turned phrases, was very dense and run-on. And because it was dense and run-on, it just took longer to understand what was happening sometimes. And so I didn't love it as much as I thought I would, but I still really liked it a lot and would still recommend it. It's a really interesting fantasy book. It reminded me a lot of, like, if you took elements of D&D, of course, and then mixed it with like very European-like feel, you'd pretty much get this setting. The bits with the goblins too was very gruesome. There was even giants in this one. Different languages talked about, different types of magic. Really, really fascinating. Again, all things I normally really like. I just kind of wish it wasn't as run-on-y in parts, and it felt very long at the same time too. So I don't know how to explain it, but it was just not... it was not as high of a 4 as I thought it was going to be, but still good, and I would still recommend it. Definitely not shy of describing some things, but was interesting in what it decided to shy away from as well. So, yeah, this one. And finally, since we're done with books, let's just get into decks. Let's talk about this, because... listen, I think I was meant to do some things with decks this month. I was. And it just did not happen because life was stressful and hard and just had a lot of shit going on in it. Okay. So let's kind of start with the Oracle decks that I used a little bit at the beginning of the month and then kind of dropped away from completely by the end of the month. So first off, I have 2 oracles that I was intending to use during the month of April. The first was the Liminality Oracle, and the second was the Divine Ephemera Oracle. But let's look at Liminality first. These are the backs, fronts. This deck is beautiful. I would definitely say it's like a perfect pair with, oh my god, this image is so cool. It's definitely a perfect pair with like Shadowscapes Tarot, if you've ever seen that one. This goes very well with this deck. It's almost a very similar art style. I was using this in the beginning of the month to do like oracle pulls. But as the month drew on and I just grew more tired and wary and having a lot of bullshit going on, I kind of abandoned doing oracle readings, but I did have some interesting pulls with this one. I feel like if I was in a better headspace, this deck would have hit harder. But again, it was just a weird month. Like, I started off the month doing readings with this one, but then I went on the trip to San Diego for like a weekish, or less than a week, maybe like 4 or 5 days. And then I came back and it was just hard to bring it back up, like that routine back up. But at the same time that I was working with this one, or trying to... Oh, this deck does not want to go back in. Oh my goodness. Okay, not a fan of this box as much. I was also using this one at the same time. So I was pulling both of these simultaneously. This is Divine Ephemera. These are the backs. I tried to work with this last year too, I believe is what it was. And once again, I don't know, maybe I'm just not in the right headspace for spring. I didn't want to be in spring vibes. I was working at this with this one the same time as Liminality. I would pull one of these and then like one of the other deck or two. And again, that was more at the beginning of the month, and it was kind of fine. I think they were actually talking pretty well together. But yeah, once I came back from my trip, it was just harder to get back into the practice of wanting to pull cards, or at least to pull oracle cards. So I just didn't as much. But otherwise, they're beautiful decks. It's not really to fault them. I think life got to me. And so I wasn't gravitating to doing oracle pulls as I normally do. But yeah, Divine Ephemera. So oracles was that. Here's a deck I meant to use this month, and I don't think I did at all, but I will show it anyways. This is the Mystic Fairy Tarot. You guys might recognize this because, you know, I used it during my Tarot March Madness videos. These are the backs of this older edition, I should say, on the good old Llewellyn cardstock. The past owner, because this is used, what's it called? Edged it in this beautiful, like, copper to match the fronts. I meant to use this deck, okay? I meant to use this deck in April, and I will be straight up honest, I did not. And I will explain why once I get to the deck in question that seemed to preoccupy my time more. But I don't know. I just wasn't about it. I just didn't want to. I don't know. There were other decks that kind of took up space for me. And so, yeah, I just didn't. I don't know. I didn't get to this deck. It's always funny how that works out. You intend to use one deck or other, and it just doesn't happen. But again, it is what it is. But that's the Mystic Fairy Tarot. Meant to use this deck, did not use it. The next couple decks, I don't know how to do this. Okay, maybe I'll just show it like this. All four of these decks, I literally only used once. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I only used them once. Or maybe this one twice at most. But the others I only used once. I was having a hard time with tarot during the month of April. And it's just because, again, I went traveling and then I came back. And then I just was not, I don't know, guys. I wasn't in the mood. But the first deck in question here is the Botan Tarot, and I just realized I think I have paint all over it, because that was the only other interesting thing I did this month was painting. Yeah, I have paint all over it. That's fun. Anyways, at least it's just a box. Botan Tarot. These are the beautiful backs. These are the beautiful edges. I meant to use this deck more. I want to use this deck more. I want to do some interesting work with this deck. But again, life got in the way and I just did not. But you know what was fascinating about this deck, or at least the creator? So I've talked about this before. The creator of the Botan Tarot actually lives in my hometown. Kind of a weird coincidence, as it were. But they were actually, I didn't go to it, but I knew it was happening. She was talking about going to this like cherry blossom festival that they were having in like a neighboring district. I don't know how to explain it. It's technically San Jose, but it's technically its own city too. Called Cupertino, whatever. Anyways, she was there. And she was selling this deck, by the way. So if you were there at the Cupertino Cherry Blossom Festival, you got to get a copy of the Botan Tarot. She was selling it. She was selling her art prints. I knew about it. I told some tarot people in my tarot group. That was one of the other only things that happened in the month of April. I had my tarot meetup as usual. We were going over the queens, and I mentioned that she was going to be there. Hope he got a copy of this. I think he wanted to get a copy of this. The person who I told. But that's actually an interesting fact. But yeah, I wanted to use this deck, but I only used it once. beautiful deck still. Doesn't mean I'm not going to ever use it again. I think it was just, again, I was having a bad time in April trying to read for myself as much. So I only use this deck once to do a weekly, a week ahead, thing, as I typically do. But that was Botan. Another deck I used literally for one reading in this little bag here. I have my mini version of the Victorian Fairy Tarot. Only used it once. We already know how I kind of feel about this deck. Every time I've brought it up, I've been like, not 100% having it, right? It's better of a shuffle now, as you can see. It's not as sticky as it was before. Victorian Fairy. Why did I only want to read with it once? Again, because I don't know where the hell my brain was. I just was not about it. Even though this is like a perfect April, May, whatever, springtime deck. It was just not about it. Did not care. Only read with it once. I guess it is what it is. It just didn't happen. But still interesting. I still love this small version better than the regular. The regular is biting and cumbersome and more sticky. The mini is now not as sticky and weird gilding. So it's much easier, but still like oddly blurred and weird at times. I don't know. This is definitely one I'll have to try to use again. I was not about it. And I have other decks I'm going to be using in May. So, this is gone. Bye-bye is what it is. Victorian Fairy Tarot. Let's talk. What else did I use only once? Oh, yeah. I always mean to use this deck more, and then I don't. So I don't know what that says about me. We haven't formed a strong bond yet. But if you can't tell by these backs, this is the Dreaming Way Tarot. This is an older US Games deck, mass market. I should say the Mystic Fairy Tarot was also mass market. This version of the Victorian Fairy that I just showed and the Botan were indie. Dreaming Way Tarot. This is also a great deck, I would say, for like winter, March, or not winter. Sorry, I mean winter, spring vibes. This would probably be a good deck for March. But I meant to use it this month. I wanted to use it. I originally said yes. I'm going to try to form a bond with it. I'm going to do some more readings. Maybe I should take it out. Maybe I should do that. And I just did not. No, don't know why. I was just like, no, don't care. It is what it is. I don't know. Why didn't I want to use this deck? Can't tell you. I did, like I said, I did do one reading. I did like a week ahead reading with this. But beyond that week ahead reading, nothing happened, right? Nothing happened. I could have read with it more, but again, it wasn't in the cards for me. And everything will become clear soon, but this is all to know for now. This is finally the last deck. I used twice and that was it. This, if you can't tell by the interesting bag here, this is the Children of Ostara Tarot. This is another indie deck, recent Kickstarter, all that jazz. Same creator as the Children of Litha Tarot. But yeah, now there's a Ostara version, which is more plant-based. These are the backs. These are the black edges. Rose petal finish, very sticky. Beautiful deck, once again. But, yeah, did not use this all except for 2 times. And you know what's funny? This deck could also be a really good, like, it is very springy, but it could also be a good, like, early summer deck. But I don't know. Once again, I was just not about it. Wasn't as interested. I think the thing that's hard, too, is, like, decks like the Botan and this one, Not so much as like the Dreaming Way or even Victorian Fairy or even like the Mystic Fairy that I showed before that. This deck and the Botan Tarot are not the easiest to travel with, so it's not like I could have taken the deck to work with me and all that jazz. They're very big and cumbersome boxes. And also just because they are indie, I feel more precious with them. I'm not going to go out of the house with them. I'm not going to run around and do a bunch of shit with these decks. So I guess that also made it less likely for me to, again, use them outside the house. Not to say that I wouldn't ever take an indie deck outside of the house, because I have, unless it was like a deck I know to be out of print, right? But I don't know what it was. I didn't reach for this fully, except for like 2-ish readings, and they were fine. It's just, again, I don't know. I was in most of April, I was in a weird funk. But then I did have one thing though that was kind of funny. I've talked about a lot of decks already, but I have 2 decks to talk about that I actually used during the month of April. See, I had all these plans to use some of the other decks you saw, but I either didn't use them or only used them once. Okay, let's be honest here. This deck right here, this is the deck I actually used the most in the month of April. And that was the Paulina Tarot. Yes, could anybody have seen that coming? Probably not. But me and the Paulina Tarot were having a moment. We were vibing. These are the backs of the Paulina Tarot. And these are the fronts, if you've never seen them. Paulina Tarot. This is Paulina Faye. Well, it says Paulina Faye on the box, but also known as Paulina Cassidy. This was her first tarot deck that she ever did, right? And I have to say, out of all the ones that I've seen, this is still always going to be top tier for me. There's something about this deck that had the right balance of her style of intricate, detailed artwork and line work with like the right amount of color for me, I think is what it was. And some dramatic scenes and really interesting stuff in her early art, right? For that reason, I really, really liked this deck. It was very springy. It had some interesting depths while also not being too light and fun and all that jazz. It was just the right balance for me. I don't know what it was. I took this deck to work. I would read this deck at work. I read this for quite a few readings. I read this also for coworkers at work. So there you go. This deck did it all. It was the main deck that I used in the month of April. And it's funny because, like, after using this deck a lot, I kind of became obsessed with the idea of having at least another one of her decks. Right now, I don't know if I will, but I am very, very tempted right now by the Phantasma Tarot of hers. I think that one still has enough bright coloring that I would want it. I know she just came out with, what's it called, the Magic Makers Tarot or something like that. But my problem with that deck, from what I've seen of it, is that it's wider in size. It's like more oracle looking size. And the other issue I have with that one is it's too muted in color tone. So I don't think I would be definitely getting that one. I have no interest in Joie de Vivre. So if I'm ever going to get another one, it would probably be Phantasma and definitely not Spirit Song either. So I don't know. But I was really vibing with Paulina Tarot. This was the main deck I used in the month of April. This one was a good one. It read all kinds of things. It called out my coworkers. It was very accurate. It wanted to say what it wanted to say. And this was just the one I kept using. I took this to the tarot, my tarot meetup. It's mass market, so it was easy to, like, again, take around, bang around. I didn't have to worry about being too precious with it, and it just felt like the right deck to use in the month. So this is the one I used the most. But I will say one last thing. The last deck that I ended up using in the month of April, even though I did not originally intend to. It was not supposed to be a deck I used in April, but I cheated. I did whatever. Is this one. This, if you don't recognize this is the Magical Creatures Tarot. And the reason why I ended up using it in April was because I also had decided I wanted to take this deck to work, to read with, for coworkers also. So when I didn't use the Paulina, I used this deck. Now, I did not read for myself with this deck during the month. I should start by saying that. This was a deck I read with for other people. And it was only like a day thing, but I did like 3 or 4 readings in that day. Yeah, it was crazy. I did. And it was right after work too, so my brain was like dead and fried. But I managed to do readings for them with this deck, and it is, as usual, very beautiful. Reads really well for other people, probably because it's an RWS clone, but it's magical creatures. It's very cutesy. It's not too confronting. Beautiful imagery that people are like, wow, I love the art of this. I love how it looks. And then there was a lot of the extra cards that popped up too. So that was fun to see how they presented for people. But yeah, I didn't read for myself with this deck. I wasn't, again, originally intending to. This was a deck you guys know. I use this in, oh my God, what the hell? I use this deck in, was it January of this year? Oh, some of these are so cute. I need to learn more of the extra cards though, because yeah, there was quite a few that like popped up. But yeah, this one is such a good one in general. I guess that's why I was so very tempted to just take it out for work. And it shuffles like, oh, look at that shuffle. It is so good. It is so easy. It's linen finish. It's just so smooth, like butter. I'm really digging this deck. This one, the Paulina, will probably be up there in like standouts of the year just because of how much I wanted to use them and how well they worked for me. I have different decks planned for the month of May, and I'm pretty sure those will take, of course, precedence. But yeah, this was the last deck that I used. And if you've been watching this long, thank you so much for watching. I really don't have any more to say about April because it was just a hard time. It was a weird time. It was a long time. And I just wanted to get on with life. Is what it is sometimes. I'm hoping that May will be better, but I already know what's coming in May, and I don't think it will, but we will see. Anyways, again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys all again next time. Bye.